Yay! I'm so glad we got connected. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you too, Ming. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. How are you?
I'm good, good. We're in Barcelona, so in the middle of a second heat wave. It's very warm this year, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I know.
but
I was
we're
in
good.
Barcelona traveling around a few years ago, eating my
Ah,
paella.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I remember getting this big giant pot of paella and
Yeah.
not being able to eat it all.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Two or three
What
people.
time is it over there?
Currently it's 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. 10
Oh,
past
okay.
4.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not too late for you.
No, it's okay. No, 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 no. It's okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
And you, how are you? Where are you based, actually?
I am based in Gainesville, Florida, so near or an hour and a half from Orlando.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
Miriam, welcome to the Trips and Global on Wheels podcast hour. I am so excited to talk to you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so I'm gonna read the gonna read the bio that you sent over and
Okay.
get a background of you, and then we'll start. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Sounds good, Ming. Thanks. Go.
Of
Yes.
course, of course. So Mirjam Versteegh is known for her leadership in the accessible travel industry. In 2017, she became the owner of Disabled Accessible Travel, based out of Barcelona. Under her guidance, the company expanded its services and geographical reach and established itself as Europe's leading accessible travel agency. Disabled Accessible Travel offers private travel experiences with a specific focus on accessible shore excursions in the majority of the European ports of call. Miriam also developed the app accessaloo, an innovative application providing a comprehensive directory of accessible restrooms worldwide. This free app allows users to find, add, and share accessible toilets on the go. She has traveled the world extensively and lived and worked in various countries and continents. This experience has allowed her to bring a global perspective to her work and drive solutions and empower individuals with disabilities to access essential services and experiences worldwide. With her professional background in consulting, always covering the bridge between business and IT, she is dedicated to create inclusive and online solutions, making holiday planning easier, more reliable, and more fun. Wow, great work, Miriam. So
Thank
I
you.
I love that app, that accessaloo app, because as a wheelchair user myself, I'm a wheelchair user. In the corner here, you'll see on the side is my
Mhm.
wheelchair, my manual wheelchair. And whenever I'm traveling around out there in the world, it's very hard to find wheelchair accessible restrooms. Not just when I'm traveling, even in the US, I encountered this issue. I was curious, what prompted you to create this app?
Actually, by means of our work at Disabled Accessible Travel, the travel agency, so we have quite some repeat customers of ours. And when speaking with them, rather than, of course, we speak about the tours and the travel that they are up against, but mostly I got questions asking about where to find accessible toilets. And initially, for me, it was just a question because we get many different questions, all types of questions. So nothing is a weird question. But this question I got a lot. And then I figured at some point, if this question pops up a lot, it means that there's an information gap at some point.
Mm,
So I figured if people are more worried about where to go to the toilet rather than what they will see on a day trip, for instance, or what the Colosseum is in terms of accessibility, that means there's an issue. So I started looking into accessible toilets and asking around and speaking with our travelers. And basically, we discovered that there are quite some apps, of course, displaying accessible locations for accessible toilets. However, there were no pictures or very little. The information was not always accurate, let me put it this way. There were a lot of database being uploaded to an application, basically not meaning anything. So I was looking into that, and then I figured actually what we should do is help or make use of the community, because they know best. They know their region. They know if you're on holiday, or even if you're in your own hometown, you go out to dinner. They know where the accessible toilets are, and they can also make pictures, because there's no standard for an accessible toilet, at least not in Europe. So what works for you maybe doesn't work for someone else. So what we did, we're gonna create the TripAdvisor sort of for toilets. So it's very black and white. You can actually see the facilities which are there, like is there a ramp? Yes, no. Is there an emergency cord? Yes, no. Is there a left or right hand transfer? Yes, no. So it's very black and white. So people can see before going there if it will suit their requirements. And secondly, you can also validate the app and basically the toilet by means of a star rating, so either a 1 or a 5, and that is a bit subjective. So if it's like clean, was the neighbor nice, or the waiter nice, how was the food? So basically, you get all this information about the toilet before going over there. And the whole idea is that if more and more people start helping filling the app basically with valuable user data, that all makes the world a bit easier and more accessible. So it's a free app. It's actually something we created ourselves, so there's no advertisement, no nothing. And we actually encourage users to add toilets that they know of, or they come about, or if they're traveling, to basically add the information into the app so everybody else can make use of it.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's that.
that's awesome. As one of your target users,
Yeah,
I know I very much have personal experience of how this service is so needed, this app is so needed. And I
yeah.
know it's definitely, I'm glad it's worldwide available, and not just Europe, right? Not just Spain.
No, it's actually worldwide. And actually, we lived in the US for a while, and there, of course, we have the ADA, but also there we noticed. So there, many of the restaurants have an accessible bathroom. But what you miss is, for instance, the toilet can be perfect, in, depending on who you ask for. But then, for instance, the main entrance has a step, or even worse, maybe 2 or 3 steps. So
Mm.
that's the information which is not available anywhere. At least I haven't found it. So we figured that is valuable information in order to know beforehand, because you make a reservation to a restaurant, you know there's an accessible toilet because you've called up front, but then you enter there, or you try to enter there, and you basically cannot enter the restaurant as a whole. So those kind of things we would like to tackle by means of this application. So maybe some people can take a few steps, others are simply not able to. So there are different types of needs. So we figure the more information, the better. So we're not making a judgment because everybody is different. But at least before you go there, you know what you can expect. That's the idea.
Yeah. So with the app, what have you been happy with so far, and what are some challenges that you've encountered?
Very good question. What we're happy with so far is that we actually see that it's downloaded still every day. And that to me means that there still is a need for this app, because otherwise it would not be downloaded. So that is something that I still think it's a very good idea. What I'm also happy about with the fact that we chose 10 differentiators together with our travelers who are wheelchair users themselves. So I think those give like the common areas what we need answers to. What is more challenging is to get users actually uploading the information. So not only making use of the information which is already in the app, but also proactively adding toilets to the application. That is most challenging, to make people, to motivate people to do that, because that's the only thing which, if we all work together, I always say, imagine that everybody only adds 3 toilets to the application. Imagine what a valuable database you then would have for everybody, regardless if you travel to Asia or to Europe or to the US. So that is the
Yeah.
most challenging part so far.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
don't have an answer just yet.
Yeah, I think if I was to generalize, I think in Europe and North America, it's generally easier to find accessible toilets than say in um developing countries in the global south in general. I have a friend who lives in China. I grew up in China, and she has over the years drastically reduced her water intake because it's hard to find a restroom. And now she's seeing some of the more long-term health effects of that because water is so important, right? To our
Yeah,
body, so vital to our body. And so I'm just sharing that to let you know how um and you already know how crucial this app is, how crucial
yeah,
this service is. And
yeah.
and I hope it gets better and better and it expands and more users are able to add to it and share it.
Yeah, but also in Europe, you see many differences. For instance, we're based from Barcelona, and there actually the accessibility is really quite well. I can say it's very good. Also in terms of accessible toilets in the area, restaurants, public places, etc. But for
Mm,
instance, I'm native Dutch, but in Amsterdam, it's more and more challenging. So even within Europe, there are many differences between the different, not only countries, but also cities within those countries. So there's a lot of difference,
mm-hmm,
unfortunately.
mm-hmm. I was curious, did you start it off as a global app or did you start it out as a regional app or just out about Barcelona?
No, it's a global app. No, but
Oh,
the travel agency, Disabled Accessible Travel, is indeed European agency, but
mm-hmm,
the app is specifically global. It's also not. It's a completely separate entity. So of course the travel agency is what we do on a daily basis, and the app is actually a personal project of mine on a worldwide basis because people travel, and if you travel from the US to Europe, you still want to know where you
mm-hmm,
can go, and if you travel from Europe to wherever in the US, you also want to have access to that information. So the app is
mm-hmm.
specifically on a worldwide basis.
Wow, that's incredible. I have so many questions I can ask about the app alone, but
Yeah.
I think we're gonna transition. So as we also just learned from your bio, you know, you've worked and traveled abroad quite a bit.
Hmm.
Um, and my question is, how has those experiences allowed you to bring a global perspective to this accessible travel work?
First of all, I think in general, it's always an advantage if you have the opportunity to travel and work and live somewhere else. So in my case, we moved from Holland to Barcelona, Spain, from Barcelona, Spain to Geneva, Switzerland, and again back to Spain, and then actually from Spain again to the US and back from Spain. So Spain is what we currently call home. And even within Europe, there you see already the differences between these three countries that I just mentioned. So I always say there's the grass always seems greener on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But it helps you to see where you're coming from, and it also gives you a different perspective on the things which you never maybe liked in your home country. But suddenly, when you're abroad, it doesn't seem so bad, and you start to appreciate those little things. But you also see the things which are maybe better arranged or differently arranged in other destinations. So it helps you to get a bit more perspective and maybe also more patience in terms of differences that you see when you go about why things are why they are, or why things are arranged as they are arranged, because there are always cultural differences. Even between Spain and Holland, there are many. If you compare Europe to the US, again, there are others. And so it also helps you better to understand that if you work with travelers on a daily basis, they also come from everywhere. And they all have different expectations, and the whole reference is different than yours. So I always try to see where people are coming from, and advise them a bit about the country that they're traveling to, what they can expect, what things might be differently, to help set their expectations. That's basically what I try to do.
Yeah, yeah, I think travel does cultivate all of that and patience as well,
Yes. Yeah.
especially if you're you know, with the target group that you're serving, people with disabilities, you definitely cultivate a lot of patience when you're traveling around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to learn more about you, and I know our listeners will too. Would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about you and your personal background and how
Yeah, of
you
course.
came to doing this type of work?
Yeah, of course. Well, originally I'm from Holland, so that's where I grew up and lived and studied and started working also. Then we meaning me and my husband, we moved to Barcelona about 12 years ago, basically for a job opportunity that he got. And my professional background is in consulting services. So always on the verge of business and IT in terms of project management, program management, operational risk management. So something totally different, but always in terms of planning, dealing with people, making sure that everybody's on the same page, etc. And then we decided to make the move abroad, just basically because we wanted to see what it's like. And in Barcelona, I initially started for another company in 3D printing. But before that got off the ground, we got another opportunity to work in Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland. So we decided to go there, which was not the best choice, but because we miss Barcelona, frankly, too much, to be really honest. And we decided to go back because we feel most at home here. And then that's when I started Disabled Accessible Travel. So I was actually speaking to a friend of mine who works in she's got her own medical practice and she works a lot with people with less mobility for different reasons. So when we were speaking, she said to me, well, people always go to the same destination. And for me being Dutch, you find Dutch people everywhere. So I figured that's really something not typical for Dutch people. So I asked her why. And she said, well, because people know what they're going to get. They don't like to be disappointed. They know if the accommodation is there, that everything will work according to what they need. The environment is okay. The services are okay. So I thought it's actually really interesting. So I started looking into this a bit. And then I noticed so I was researching basically the accessible travel market because it was something new to me. And I saw all these different agencies. So some are focused on Netherlands, some are focused on Spain, others are focused on Italy. And then I also came across Disabled Accessible Travel, which was having a European approach, which is what I liked for some of the reasons I just mentioned and from my personal perspective. And when I got in touch with them, they were actually looking for someone to bring it to the next level. So there were already some destinations included, like Portugal or Amsterdam or Holland or other destinations. And that's when I decided, well, this is what I like to do because Europe is a big place. It's small, but it's also a big place. And I figured, let's give it a go. So that's when I decided to jump on board. And basically, we have transitioned from there, adding more and more destinations where we could transforming the website, adding more services, focusing more and more on shore excursions because we noticed there's a lot of demand for that. And we grew ever since. Actually, every year we try to add more destinations based on the questions that we get. And we have a lot of repeat business, a lot of word of mouth. So it's going really well. And the customers are nice, people are appreciative, and we can't complain. I'm happy with what we're doing.
Yeah. I was reading through your website and I was amazed at all of the destinations that you guys offer and all the accessibility services and then all the adaptive products things that you guys rent out too.
Yeah.
I was amazed. What is that personal connection, would you say? Do you have one in terms of uh, a person with a disability, rather it's like a friend or a family member, or is it purely you saw it as you saw there was a void in that business space, and then you did research and you became really passionate in serving this group of people?
Yeah. Actually, my background at university is social studies, so that's always a bit the social aspect, what that's concerned. On a personal level, I don't have a family member or, meanwhile, I do have a friend actually in a wheelchair. But it's not really from a personal level that I was drawn to from a young age. It actually just came about when speaking with my friend and when you start reading things and seeing how complicated it is and people cannot enjoy basically the holiday that they want to do or business travel for that matter. I mean, it's not only holidays. And then I figured like that was in 8 years ago, but even in that time of age in 20th century, I mean, it's very, how do you, interesting that some services are not so developed as they should be in the mainstream travel industry. That's what I always find very interesting to see why there still is such a difference in the mainstream travel and in the accessibility travel. So we notice it as well on a daily basis in order to get information about hotels, for instance. I mean, why is it that we need to send like 7, 8 emails and then call and ask for pictures when me and my husband go on a trip and we have it arranged within 5 minutes online? Those kinds of things actually tend to surprise me, and that's what I like about this business. It's a social aspect. Like I said, many people we know personally, or they come back and they know my husband and they know a part of your family. And but I also like to see how we can develop from more like the travel agency that we are, more into an not an automated service, but more to see if we can make it a bit more easier online, to make like instant bookings or almost instant bookings, to see how we can facilitate that process. That's also what I like to focus on the next couple of years, to be honest. So
Mm-hmm.
in addition to the custom travel, also to see how we can make it a bit easier to find the information that people need and they can book easier than it is now.
Yeah. All of this stuff is not easy, but you make it sound
No, it's not easy.
you make it
No,
sound very doable. Um,
I hope to. That's like I said. That's my professional background is in that area between business and IT, and I'm looking at this as well from that perspective sometimes, and I'm like, it's really interesting that this is so not there yet. So I'm not sure if it's possible, but I don't like taking over an answer. So I like to see how we can facilitate that a bit more.
yeah, yeah. So my next question follows that, which is I know there have been challenges because I personally try to tackle some of these aspects, and
Mhm.
the the amount that you've tried to chew on and have tackle is incredible. So I know you have lots to share when I ask you the next question, which is what are the unforeseen challenges of managing an accessible travel agency so far?
The unforeseen challenges are sometimes the difficulty that even we have in getting the information that we need for our travelers. Like I said, specifically in terms of accommodation needs, for instance, even five-star hotels make it extremely complicated to get pictures of an accessible bathroom. That's what I find more challenging than anticipated and very frustrating and annoying. Um, on the other hand, possibly the fact that maybe some people, it's not like home. When you travel, regardless if you're in a wheelchair or if you're traveling with a family of 3 children or just as a couple, there always, nothing will be like home. And I know that many of our travelers don't expect that, but some indeed maybe have some expectation that Europe is a bit similar to the US, which is also not the case. So I always try to set expectation that the world is a bit different here in Europe than in the US. That might be. And further, I think in terms what we currently run against is, or notice more, is availability challenges. Is it so incredibly busy at the moment, even more than the past years, that you run into issues with availability. That I'm even talking in 3, 4 months from now. And I'm also curious to see how that develops, because it basically means that there are more and more people traveling, which is good because more people dare to explore the world. But if there's no availability, it's very hard to deliver service.
Mhm.
So that's another issue.
Yeah. What has helped when you're contacting the hotels or whatever third party for information? What's made it easier over the years? Is it just the connection that they know you?
Yes, the service partners I work with, I am very loyal. I think we hardly changed anyone. If it's good, if the service is good, if it's reliable, if some things go wrong, because things can always go wrong. It can be me, it can be the service partner, it can be the customer. Maybe people can own up to that mistake and try to make it work. Then indeed it works really, really well. What I find in terms of what makes it easier in terms of hotels is that you dare to push more. I mean, in the beginning, you're a bit maybe more polite, and if we don't get the information we need, then you dare to push more in terms of, well, if they don't give the information, we don't book the service. Basically, that's
Yeah.
that's how. Yeah,
Yeah.
but in terms of service partners, we are very loyal, and we have really, really good service partners. I'm really happy with those.
Hmm.
Like I said, it's a
How,
package deal. It's the customer, it's us, and it's the service partner, and we can only do it together. It's not. It's a
yeah.
three-way.
Yeah, yeah. I love the can do and just like get to resolving the problem and creating the service for people. How much of your the success of this accessible travel agency, how much of it involves the direct feedback of people with disabilities? Like, do you do direct surveys? Do you do um I don't even know what the word is. Just do you do broad surveys that involve people with various types of disabilities and testing and all of that at all?
No, no, we
No.
don't. No, we do ask our travelers, or not all of them, but some of them, after the trip, especially if someone has been in different locations, how it was, because I say there's no way to improve if we don't know.
Mm,
So we do ask that on occasion, not with everybody. It's something that we should be doing, to be honest, because it's so busy you don't always have time for that. But that's the only way you can improve your service level, but also help the service partner if there are things which might be done differently, which would help in terms of the overall service delivery. Then it's good to know. But we
mhm.
don't do surveys on a weekly or monthly basis. No, no.
Okay. What I meant was testing, like user testing before you launch a program or before you launch a service or before you rent out an equipment. Do you do testing first? Like have a group of people with disabilities use the product first, sample it, see how it is, ask for their experience, before releasing it and promoting it on your website or wherever you promote.
No, what we do is, but when you have a new destination, so let's some people ask for a destination that we don't have, and we start searching for that, and we feel comfortable sending people over there. Then we are transparent in the fact that that's the first time that we're using the provider. And then we do ask to see if they can give us feedback in terms of how it went. And only then is when we start adding this provider to our portfolio, basically. But in terms of equipment rental, we work with local partners for equipment rental in Barcelona, for instance, where we have port authority to deliver inside the cruise cabin. And they're a well-known supplier in the market, but it's not that we test any scooter or wheelchair prior to lending it out. No, we test the supplier in terms of reliability, in terms of insurances, etc. That's what we do test, but we don't test products or that type of thing. What we mainly try to do as well is also get pictures, for instance, in transport, because every vehicle is different in Europe. Every configuration is different. So as soon as we have a new transport provider, we do want pictures of the vehicle. We want the vehicle configurations. We want the measurements. So at least we know what might fit and what might not fit.
Yeah.
And that's how we do the testing, to use your word, or the
Yeah.
validation. Yeah, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we always check if there's someone new, then the customer knows up front, and then we also check afterwards to see if everything is as it should be and as we had planned it should be.
Yeah. I have so much admiration for for your travel agency and for all the work that you're tackling and the expansion that you're seeking too, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I know it's not easy. Like I said, I personally try to tackle some of these things and just tackling one or two of those things alone is difficult. Never mind all the things that you're doing.
Yes, I always say Europe is a big place. It's small, but it's a big place. Yes.
Yes, yes, for sure. So over the years of doing this work, what have you learned in terms of that's been eye-opening for you in terms of either people with disabilities, that whole group, or accessible travel?
That nothing worked as I thought it was. So I come from a very commercial background, corporate
Mm-hmm.
background in terms of
Mm-hmm.
my professional experience, and tourism is totally different in terms of pricing, in terms of demand, in terms of organization, in terms of everything. Basically, there's a lot of things which are based on relationship. That's what I do like. But further than that, I basically forgot everything else but what I was used to, and I just went with the flow, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
Yeah.
And that's been a learning process in terms
Yeah,
of
in the
going with
beginning,
the
yes,
flow.
yes, because I'm very Dutch and fast and organized and structured, and I
Uh-huh.
had to learn that not everybody is like that because people
Uh-huh.
like work during the day, you get answers at 2 o'clock at night, and I'm like, and I like to have fast answers, especially with the American customer group we have, because they're used to a time to answer which is shorter than in the US or than in Europe. So that has been a learning curve for also to set my expectations. Yes,
So learning on the go and
exactly.
realizing that, the models that you were using, the previous way of doing things doesn't necessarily work anymore.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. As soon as you know, that you kind of adapt along the way, exactly as you say. And again, per country, per supplier, etc. Yeah, so that was a learning process. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm specifically a wheelchair user, as I shared earlier, and people listening, a lot of them will be wheelchair users as well. What's your
Mhm.
two best travel advice for wheelchair users, would you say?
Um, Research prior before booking your ticket. For instance, we mainly focus on private accessible shore excursions, and then we notice that people book a cruise, for instance, with various ports of call. However, maybe four of those ports are tender ports, and you are a wheelchair user and you cannot transfer to the tender, or not allowed to tender, or the cruise liner has specific restrictions. Those are the ones which we cannot solve because it's at the discretion of the cruise liner. So, but the cruise is booked, the flight is booked,
Mm.
and we can only assist in those ports where people can actually dock. So those are the things I would say up front, especially if you're researching your cruise itinerary. Please make sure to check if the ship actually docks in port, and if not, if the tenders which are used are allowed for wheelchair users, or if there are specific restrictions. That would be my main advice to avoid disappointment and spending a lot of money when you cannot see the destinations that you thought you were able to see.
Mhm.
Another advice, this also actually goes to researching destinations. I think if you're going to Barcelona or Spain in general is quite good in terms of accessibility, but we also notice that people then search a destination, they book a flight, and then they start researching as soon as they're there. So maybe they need a mobility equipment scooter in France, which is very difficult to arrange in France. And it's also not something that we may be able to do. So not all problems we can solve. So before actually booking your ticket, do some research prior to make sure that at least you can get the minimum amount of facilities that you need that are available. Because many problems can be solved, but not all.
Mhm.
That would be my main advice.
Yeah, so a lot of pre-preparation.
Yeah.
But do as much as research as you can. So we come to time's just flown by. There's so many in each of these areas. Honestly, I could ask you so much more, but due to time constraints, and I won't get to. And maybe I'll email you some
Sure.
questions if you're all right. Just out of my own personal curiosity. So
Of
we
course.
come, yeah, we come to the last few minutes and to the last question. And I know you covered this already a little bit earlier on, what you want to do moving forward, but what is your ultimate dream with this accessible travel agency?
My ultimate dream is that we can allow online booking of services, exactly as any other tourism service, basically, or tour. That would be my ultimate dream. If we can make that process a bit shorter for everybody.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused by that because don't you already have online bookings?
There are no online bookings because we depend on availability of local partners. So as soon as you
Oh,
would book with me, we always need to check availability. Always.
oh, I see. Rather than
Yeah,
just you book and it's available right then because you made
exactly.
the booking. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
I see
And
what you're saying.
that's what we're trying to. I don't think we can come to from A to Z. We can completely come to the Z, but I'm like, if we can already make that a bit shorter,
Mm-hmm.
that would be my ultimate aim.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then last but not least, how can people follow your work, follow your travel agency and um for people who are interested because it is not a service that you uh see everywhere, unfortunately. It is still like, whoa, you do all this incredible work and for people who don't know about and just listening to this podcast and discovering all of the amazing services you offer.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, there's our website, which is disabledaccessibletravel.com. So people can always have a look there to see what we can do and where. People are always free to send emails to see if they don't see what they're looking for, then we can see where we are, where we can assist. We have our social media, which is Facebook and Instagram, which is what we use, with the same name. So you can always find us there. And the same for the free app, accessaloo. So accessaloo you can find in the Android and iOS also for free. So it's free to download. And also there we have Instagram and Facebook. So those are the easiest ways to reach me. And I'm on, there are various groups and forums also active. So many people know me by name, and then they know that we manage disabled accessible travel. So we have a lot of direct links also. But I would say go through the website or go through our socials and just send us a PM or a note or an email, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, yeah. I was going through your website and like I said, being amazed. The next time I am in Europe, I'll have to book through you guys.
Let
And
me know. We're in Barcelona. Yes.
yeah, and check out one of your destinations.
Yeah.
Wow, what a pleasure to be able to talk to you and hear about the incredible work from the person that's doing so much great work and the dream that you have of making the direct booking available to us. And as a direct one of your direct users, one of the people that is really interested is benefiting from all the work that you've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ming. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite also. It's very nice
Of
speaking with you.
You too, you too. And I hope we get to meet in person the next time I'm in Europe.
Yes, let me know. For sure, keep us posted.